Jason. How you doing, pal?
Real good.
Great, cool. Right, well, I'm glad to speak to you. It was great getting in touch with you because it's always interesting to speak to another guitar player, you know.
Well, let's talk about you for a minute here. Billy Rankin.
Okay.
Where have you been hiding all these years? You're doing radio business, I've heard.
Yes, well, I kind of hung up the leather trousers, you know, when you get to a certain age, Jason, you just have to kind of like, you know, say, I can't wear those leather trousers anymore, you know, the leather pants, so I figured, no, I have to do something more respectable. So now I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning instead of going to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I do the breakfast show here in Scotland in rock radio.
So basically, do you interview a lot of people? I guess you meet a lot of people in the radio broadcasting business.
Yeah, it's more kind of like, you know, whoever's in town, you know, because we're based in Glasgow in Scotland, and we have like a venue in Glasgow called the SECC, and then there's loads of big bands come there. We had Bad Company last night, for example, and we've got Lynyrd Skynyrd to come into town last week. So yeah, we get all the big bands coming through.
And you get to speak to all these big bands, Billy?
Yeah. Oh, well, hey, Jason, listen, I used to tour with some of these bands.
You're a member of Nazareth for a long time.
Well, I was off and on about 16 years, yeah, and we did a lot of tours in Canada, especially, you know, in Canada, because we were quite popular there.
Yeah, Nazareth's been always highly respected in you know, Canada land. You know,
but that's Canada. Canada was always good to us, and as I said, we did a lot of tours there. I remember we played the Toronto Maple Leaf Gardens, is it? Yeah, we did the Toronto Maple Leaf Gardens with Aerosmith and a little band called Rose Tattoo. I don't know if you remember them.
From Australia?
That's right, with Angry Anderson was the singer.
That's a band from the past?
Yeah, well, we did, in fact, we recorded our live album in Canada. I think we did it in, Vancouver. I think it was Vancouver we did it. So yeah, we've had a lot of time in Canada. But now I'm back here in Scotland, and it's you know, whichever big bands are coming through, some of them I already know personally, and the rest I get to speak to, and I get paid for it. It's great.
When you get paid to interview the classics, you know, the legends, that's a funny mind job you're doing.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think so too. Yeah, we're very lucky, you and I.
We get to speak to our legends and our, you know, idols.
That's right. I mean, I've met most of my idols. I've met over the years that I was touring. You know, my favourite guitar players like Alvin Lee from 10 Years After. He's one of my best friends now. It's great, you know, when he calls you on the phone and he says, "Hey, it's Alvin here," and you're like, he's my idol, you know. So yeah, it's not a bad job to have.
Let me ask you a question here, Billy. What's the story with Scorpions? I read a long time ago something with the Scorpions. You were going to be a guitar player.
That's right. Yes, it's all true. I was staying in London at the time. I think I was about 18 or 19 years old, and there was an advertisement came in the Melody Maker, which is a big music magazine over here, and it said, "Top RCA band require guitar player." And I didn't know who it was. I mean, I just figured that, I mean, it's an RCA band, so that's a big record label. That's Elvis Presley's on RCA. I figured that must be worth a shot. And I went along, and there was these German guys, and I had never heard of the Scorpions, but I put the guitar on, and we played, you know, we had a jam for about half an hour, and they said, "You have the job, Billy. We want you in the band, and we will arrange to have you flown to Germany, and you will live in Germany." How's my accent, by the way? Does it sound German? Anyway, they said, yeah, we want you to come to Germany and live in Germany. And I said, okay, guys, great. And I went back home to her flat, and I told my girlfriend, who's now my wife, by the way, we've been married for 30 years now. And I said, hey, we're moving to Germany. And she said, okay. And then I never heard another word. And it was about, 10 years after that, I met the Scorpions in a hotel in Manchester in England. And I said, you guys never got back to me. And they remembered, and they said, Billy, we wanted you to join, but we could not understand your English.
So it's all language barrier problems.
Yeah, well, you see, Jason, I'm Scottish. I'm from Scotland, and I'm trying to be very careful speaking to you so as you can understand me. But if I speak normal Scottish, you wouldn't understand a word I said. And that was what the Scorpions said was the problem, that they couldn't understand what I was talking about. I was speaking English, and they couldn't understand my English, basically. But it's a true story, yeah. I was with the Scorpions. I was offered the job, and I took the job. And I would say I was probably in the Scorpions for, 30 minutes, maybe?
30 minutes?
Yeah.
So what year was this?
That was in 1979.
Right when
It was just when Michael Schenker had left, and they were getting a new guitar player in.
the Love Drive album.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I didn't get to play on it, did I?
No, too bad. That would have been a super album with Billy Rankin on it.
Well, except they probably wouldn't have understood what I was talking about.
Yeah, and then you joined Nazareth the following year.
Yep. Yes, I joined Nazareth the following year, and we had like 4 years, I think, I was with Nazareth, and I had a solo album called Growing Up Too Fast on A&M Records, and I had a big hit single. I was on MTV and all that with a song called Baby Come Back. I don't know if you remember it, because you're probably too young, but it was a really big hit single for me, and I went to Canada, I went to America, and I did all the tours and stuff. And eventually got back with Nazareth back in 1990. So yeah, I was kind of off and on with Nazareth a bit, but it was all fun.
Now, the Melody Maker, magazine you're mentioning, a lot of bands, go through this magazine, and this was your case also.
Yeah, well, the case with Nazareth, it wasn't, because I played with a band called the Sensational Alex Harvey Band, and they were very popular in Europe, and I was 17 when I played with them, and we were with the same record company as Nazareth. So when Nazareth needed a guitar player, they just looked and said, well, let's pick Billy. We know him. He's Scottish. He talks like us. We can understand him, and he's a good guitar player. So I didn't have to go through any auditions or anything with Nazareth. I was just given the job and told to turn up for work the next day.
Do you recall the equipment you used back in, let's say, the Snaz album, and
Yes,
for live?
It was always Marshall. I don't know. Do you use Marshalls, Jason? I
use Marshalls also, yeah.
Well, I used to use the old 50-watt Marshalls. The original 50-watt Marshalls from about 1967, 68, and I used to have 4 50-watt Marshalls, and usually 8 4x12 Marshall cabinet stacks.
Wow.
The only difference with a 50-watt Marshall and a 100-watt Marshall would be that they were louder if you were playing a really, really big venue, But with a 50-watt, you could actually turn them full on, right up to 11. You could turn them right up, and they just gave you that great Marshall guitar sound. So I always used a Gibson 335, an original 1959 Gibson 335 that I used with Nazareth, and basically just Marshall 50s and loads of speakers.
Where do you acquire these amps back then?
I bought them. Well, you see, I was born in 1959, so the first band I was in, I was probably about 12 years old, 13, and you could buy them, at that time, because they were, it wasn't that long since they were out. It would be probably really difficult to buy one now.
Certainly from the old days. Those are classic
amps. Yeah.
Oh,
they were vintage Marshall 50s, and we always had like loads and loads of spares with us in case they blew up, because they blew up quite a lot.
Now, let's say you playing with a Nazareth concert. How loud would you be playing? Would it blow up the cabinet? The speaker?
No. See, that was why we used the 50-watt amps, because the 50-watt amps would not blow up the 100-watt cabinets, so you could turn them up as loud as you liked, and they wouldn't blow them up. Hey, we learned, because we blew up lots and lots of cabinets, and we learned that if we used 50-watt Marshalls, then you didn't get that problem.
So how's your hearing today? Considering you're playing and blowing up amps, that's loud stuff.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Jason. My hearing's a bit funny. Yeah, I do have a slight problem with hearing. Yeah, because we probably should have used earplugs, because I know a lot of bands nowadays. So some of my best friends, like Def Leppard, you know Def Leppard?
For sure.
Yeah, well, I'm a good friend of Phil Collen, the guitar player with Def Leppard, and he uses one Marshall amp. Now, this is a secret, right? Don't tell any of the listeners of that. But he uses one Marshall amp. He's got loads of them on stage, but there's only one switched on, and there's only one plugged in, and he has it at the volume of 2.
Wow.
It's so quiet on that stage. I mean, what they do is they stick a microphone at the speaker, and then they throw it out through the big PA speakers. But on stage with Def Leppard, you could hear a pin drop They're so quiet actually on the stage. And that's probably what we should have done. Then maybe I'd be able to hear you better now.
How loud really was it on stage with Nazareth? Ear piercing all the time?
Yes, all the time. It was incredibly. Our bass player Pete, he used alembic cabinets and then Trace Elliott cabinets. He had tons of stuff, and I was always standing next to him, so I would always turn up just to be louder, because you're a guitar player, Jason. You need to be louder than the bass player, surely.
For sure, guitarists always need to be louder.
Yeah, and he always turned his up, so it was always a competition just to see who could play louder. So yeah, it was pretty painful on stage. Oh, listen, I've got a joke for you, dear. I've got a bass player joke for you, okay?
Go for it.
How can you tell when there's a bass player at your door?
I'm not sure.
Well, either he can't find the key or he doesn't know when to come in.
How old is that joke? Where you get that one from?
Yeah, but how true is that joke, eh?
That's an interesting, comment. But yeah, it's like almost true in a sense.
Of course it's true. Bass players are just frustrated guitarists. You know it, I know it. I'm causing lots of trouble here now, aren't I?
Well, you've always stirred the pot, I guess. Have you?
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
And now you're in radio business. I'm sure you get some great stories going on there in Scotland.
Yeah, well, I'm actually, I do the breakfast show, and I have lots of, maybe you do the same, but I have lots of music features every day. And one of the features includes, basically slagging off bass players. And we have lots of fun with that, because I do have a lot of bass players who listen, and even they think it's funny. It's just a joke, but it makes for good radio. You have to make good radio,
Now, Billy, you've been on the internet for a little while now. How is that treating you?
Yeah, I'm still struggling with the internet. I've just made friends today on a thing called Facebook. I've made friends with the bass player from Free, Andy Fraser.
From Free?
He was the original bass player with Free, the band Free. You remember All Right Now and all that?
Oh, yeah. Great stuff.
Yeah, I just made friends with him today. That's how cool is that?
Facebook bringing everybody in the world all together.
Yeah, and I'm going to now have to do a new feature on my show, and it's going to have to be called Andy Fraser's Good Bits, and I'm going to have to play some of his bass playing on it. Now,
do you dig up the archive sometimes, like old, obscure songs for your radio broadcasting?
Yes, I do. There's a one that I'm actually working on at the moment. It's a singer called Frankie Miller. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Frankie Miller, but if you're not, you and your listeners should check him out on YouTube or whatever. He's one of the best white rock and roll blues soul singers ever in the world. And he's an old friend of mine, and he took a brain hemorrhage a few years ago, and he's now in a wheelchair, and he's not able to sing anymore. And I managed to get a demo from him when I went to visit him at his house. And I've started to play this demo on the show. And now we have a campaign on Facebook to get it released as a single. It's really, really good. If you haven't done so already, if any of your listeners want to check it out, it's Frankie Miller, Bottle of Whiskey. And if you check it out on YouTube, you'll hear one of the best voices in rock and roll. And as I say, we're trying to get it released as a single. So the internet and all that stuff seems to help with that.
We'll have to check that out, Frankie Miller.
Yeah, Frankie Miller, Bottle of Whiskey. If you type that into your search engine and check it out, and then join up on the campaign to get it released as a single, you'll love it. You'll love it, Jason. You really will.
Going back, to the Scorpion days of, the 30 Minutes of Fame with Billy Rankin, on guitar, did you actually go to the session and they, play some old Scorpion songs?
No, what we did was just have a jam session. We played some old blues, we played some rock and roll. They just wanted to hear what I could do. And I wasn't there to hear what they could do, and I really thought it was going to be a band that I had heard of, but the Scorpions weren't really that big in Europe at the time, so I had no idea who these guys were or how popular they were going to be. So it was just a jam session. It was fun. It was great fun.
It's like the Scorpions now. They're retiring. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Yeah, and they just put their handprints on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. Yeah, they just did it 2 days ago on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I think they're the first rock band to be commemorated with it, and yeah, you should check that out as well. See, while you're looking up Frankie Miller, look up the Scorpions as well, Jason, and you'll see it. They're on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. You know, at the Chinese Theatre.
How's your record collection?
Oh, I've had to renew most of it on CD now, and now it's all MP3 player and stuff, right?
Right.
So there's lots of the stuff I used to have that you can't get anymore. I've got a lot of old blues stuff like Lightning Hopkins, Muddy Waters, all the really old blues stuff, and then you can buy reissues of it, but I prefer my albums. I've still got a record deck, and I usually listen to my old albums on vinyl.
And your current playing, do you play still on the guitar often?
Not as often as I should, because when you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you really don't want to play the guitar, you know?
Not at 4 or 5 in the morning, no.
No. What time do you do your show?
I do it at night.
Well, you're okay then. So you can just do your show and then get out and go to a club or something and rock out, yeah?
Yeah, I still play the weekends at concerts. When's the last time you played a concert?
Well, our radio station had its 3rd birthday bash in January, and I got up and played a blues set for that. So January the 29th of this year was the last time I played a gig.
Do you get recognized often, for being, that great guitarist in the 80s?
No, but see, we're from Scotland, Jason, and Scottish people don't like fame. And if you become famous in Scotland, then you have to move to Canada or somewhere else, because it's not acceptable in Scotland to be a superstar or someone famous, because Scottish people tend to be down to earth and just try and keep. I've managed to keep my head down even when it was like really successful times, and we're making loads of money and we were famous and all that, and we were playing to like 200,000 people, and then you come back home and you go up to the bar for a drink, and all your friends were just like regular guys,
Mm-hmm.
and that kept your feet on the ground as well. It's not a big fame country, Scotland. We don't do fame very good.
You're very humble. You know that.
Yeah, well, it's not so much humble. I mean, I'm dead lucky, to be honest, to have actually went through my life and did what I enjoy doing and get paid for it and all that, So I'm a lucky guy that way. I'm not so much humble.
Do you recall some of your best gigs ever in your career?
Yes, probably Detroit, the Cobo Hall in Detroit. Remember the Kiss Alive album?
Oh yeah.
Well, the back cover of the Kiss Alive album, when it shows you the stadium, well, it's a theatre, and there's these kids holding up the Kiss poster and that. Well, that's the Cobo Hall in Detroit, and I played that with Nazareth in 1981. I think we did it in 82 and 83 as well, and that was probably the most fun I ever had on a stage, because they were just crazy. I lost 5 guitars one night. 5 guitars to the audience.
How did you lose 5 guitars to the audience?
They just took them off me. They just grabbed the neck and they just pulled it off me.
Wow. What type of guitars?
Well, they were very good guitars, yeah. But I learned after I lost the first 2, then I started to play some crap guitars.
And this was all at one concert and in Detroit?
Yeah, 5 guitars in one concert. They were just crazy, and it was a great gig, because you could see it in their eyes. They just wanted to rock, And sometimes if you got too close to them, then they were going to pull you in as well. So that's why I had to let go of the guitars. They weren't trying to get the guitars; they were trying to get me. And I figured I better let go of this guitar here and just unstrap it. And I lost 5 guitars at the Cobo Hall. Best night of my life. It was a great gig.
That's so cool. So you're losing guitars left and right. How's the budget for that?
Well, who cares? It was more important to put on a good show and enjoy yourself,
When are those guitars going to be on eBay, you think?
Oh, I think no. That was the thing. They actually just they destroyed the guitars. As soon as they got the guitar from you, they were all trying to get a piece, and they were breaking the strings off. Then they were breaking the neck, and they were just taking pieces of it just to take home with them.
Times changed, my friend.
Yes, it certainly has. It has indeed.
Basically, going through that, you're not losing Gibson Les Pauls, I hope.
Well, I lost a couple of Les Pauls, and I lost a couple of Washburns, because I had to deal with Washburn guitars at the time. They were not happy. Washburn guitars were not happy at that gig.
All their guitars going to the crowd, being destroyed.
Yes.
Crazy Billy Rankin on guitar, getting too close
Yeah,
to the
well,
audience.
no, it was the audience. It was crazy, Jason. I was fine. I was okay. I just realised what was happening, you know. Oh, I'll tell you what I'm doing on Tuesday, right? You know Bat Out of Hell by Meat Loaf?
For sure, yeah.
Well, I wrote a couple of songs for Meat Loaf on a few of his albums, and it wasn't Bat Out of Hell. So I'm not really rich because of that. But Meat Loaf has got a new album coming out, and he's going to he's coming to Glasgow on Tuesday, and he's going to play his new album to us. And I'm going to go along, and I've never met him before, but he's my best friend because he made me lots and lots of money with the 2 songs of mine that he recorded. So I'm going to meet Meat Loaf for the first time on Tuesday, and he's going to meet me for the first time. He doesn't know who I am, and he doesn't realise that I wrote 2 songs that he recorded. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Wow, you're going to have to tell him whole stories.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, I wrote the songs. I didn't. He went out and he toured. He worked his ass off every night playing the songs, and I just sat back in the house and took the money.
You should basically bring a camera crew and film this stuff. Put documentaries out on YouTube. You'd have some clicks.
Or maybe I should just buy him a drink.
Or you can do that too.
Yeah.
So how's the local pub scene down there, clubs and that? Is there much bands playing in the weekends?
Not as much as it used to be. I don't know what it's like over where you are, but things seem to have changed a wee bit, and it's a much more difficult. I'm pretty sure that if I was starting out now, I would probably have to get a real job, as well.
So economy's hitting hard also? Pretty
much, yeah. The bars are just not, the bands aren't showing up and because the money's really tight, So it's not too good at the moment, Jason, but hopefully it'll get better again.
Let's go back there a little bit to Nazareth. When you leave the group and then when you join back, what happened there that they invited you to join to make No Jive album?
Yeah, well, the fact of the matter was that when I joined Nazareth the first time, and we did 2XS, we did the live album, and then we did 2XS, and I wrote 5 songs on 2XS, and that meant that I was recognised by the record company as them saying, this guy can do something. So I was offered a solo deal with the record company, and because of that, I had to go out and record an album, and then I had to go and tour. And because of that, Nazareth decided, well, we can't wait for you forever. So they had to kind of basically leave the band. So when I got back with them in 1990 for No Jive, Manny Charlton had just left. The original guitar player had just left. And they figured, well, if there's anybody we want back in, it's Billy. So I just fitted straight back in there. Nazareth's like a big family, It's you never really kind of leave or anything. You're always best friends, and whether you're playing with them or not, you're always part of the family.
When was the last time you seen Nazareth?
The last time I saw Nazareth was, about 3 months ago when they came to Glasgow.
And how did you
And
take
we were all
that?
good friends. It was great.
Their volume, is it getting louder every show?
I think, well, I was out in the audience, so I couldn't tell from the stage, but yeah, I think they're probably still as loud as they always were. And the new guitar player, Jimmy, well, I say new guitar player, he's probably been there for, about 15 years now or something?
Yeah.
But he's still the new boy, and he's a great player. I really like his playing.
He's going to be the new boy for a long time.
He's going to be the new boy forever, But no, he's a great guitar player, and I'm still in touch with Manny Charlton, the original guitar player as well. We're all still good friends.
That's so great. Billy, you've had an extraordinary career, in the music scene, and now you're doing the radio business and, keep in touch with all these people. That's so awesome.
That's all I can ask for. I'm a happy man. Well, I'm glad you. I didn't even get to interview you either. I wanted to speak to you about your Ozzy Osbourne stuff and that, but maybe we should do that another time.
We could, anytime you want.
Yeah, well, just email me and let me know, and we can do a weekly show. How's that?
That would be funny too.
The Jason and Billy show.
Yeah, the Jason and Billy Rankin show. Yeah, that's funny. That's awesome. That would work. That would work. Yeah, let's work on that then. Maybe we can get the 2 radio stations to work together. What we could do is get what's up and happening in Canada. A good 5 minutes. That sounds like a plan. Why not? Yeah, I'll speak to my bosses. You speak to your bosses, and we can maybe set something up like that. Yeah. How far do you guys broadcast? Just in Scotland? Well, no, you can get if you go onto our actual website, you can listen live via the web, online. Oh, okay. So you should be able to listen to it any time.
So listen, nice to speak to you, and let's do this again sometime soon.
All right, cool. I'll keep in touch with you on the internet. You have a great night there,
You
Billy.
do that.
All right.
Thanks a lot, pal. Bye.